For the next few days, Tao Yi-Xian did not come to look for Sima Yu. However, he sent men to tell her that he would be relatively busy for the next few days and would tell her when to meet once he had settled the issues on his hands. Sima Yu did not mind these things and said that she would wait, but she didn't pay too much attention to it. During these few days, Han Miaoshuang and the others ran out for a spin. She pulled Jiang Junxian and Su Xiaoxiao along with her and would not meet others all day. They initially wanted to pull Sima Yu along with them, but she had no interest. She stayed within her house and didn't head out. Even after a few days passed, Tao Yi-Xian didn't come. It was old Ji who came instead. Sima Yu heard the helper say that someone was looking for her. She initially thought that Tao Yi-Xian had come, and was shocked when she saw Great Master Ji instead. Old Ji, what are you doing here? Great Master Ji looked at her and said animatedly, that poison, I've researched an antidote. For second Master Tao's poison? Sima Yu asked. That's right. Let me tell you, Great Master Ji, you haven't answered my question yet. Sima Yu said. What did you ask me? Great Master Ji looked at her blankly. He really didn't think that she had asked him anything. I said, how did you know I was staying here? Sima Yu asked him again. Oh, that. I went to visit the Patriarch. He said that you were here so I came. Great Master Ji said, he knows that I know you, after all. However, since Sima Yu had interrupted him, he didn't continue explaining how he found the antidote. Let's go, I just happened to plan to boil some tea. It's your favorite Dahong Pao tea. Sima Yu invited him. Is that so? Then I came at the right time. Go, let's go to your room. Great Master Ji was excited once he heard about his Dahong Pao tea. He happened to drink her Dahong Pao tea once and fell deeply in love with it. However, Sima Yu had only made it once or twice within those few days. Although she had given him a few to make on his own, he was unable to produce the same flavor. Now that he heard that she would be brewing some Dahong Pao tea, there was no way he would still remember what he came here to flaunt. Sima Yu brought him to her room. Great Master Ji saw a few tea brewing equipment placed on the tatami and was just waiting for her to boil some water, and ran over happily. Sima Yu came to the other side of the low desk and began to boil water. Alright, old Ji, now you can tell me how you made the antidote. What herbs did you use? Nothing much, actually. I just used. Great Master Ji listed a pile of herbs but his eyes were glued to the hand Sima Yu used to brew her tea. Right, I might be leaving. Leaving? Sima Yu was rather puzzled, didn't you say that you wanted to remain in the Tao clan? However, Great Master Ji sighed, saying, there are too many changes in the Tao clan now. The future of the Tao clan is unsuitable for me. Is it because of Tao Yi-Xian? Something like that. He's not like how we see him. He isn't simple. Sima Yu could tell that much. That was why she didn't advise him against it. Tao Yi-Xian was different from his father. He would not be too courteous to people like Great Master Ji. He would not give Great Master Ji such good benefits and would even find ways to decrease his value. It's good to leave as well. The world is vast and you can't coop yourself up on this island forever. You have to venture around. Great Master Ji had a very open view. This place wouldn't keep him, so was it his fault for leaving? Sima Yu gave him the Dahong Pao tea that she had finished brewing, then when do you plan to leave? Aren't you leaving once you find your people? I'll just go with you. Great Master Ji asked, I'll go with you guys. In any case, he enjoyed hanging out with her. He might as well follow her then. Will he let you go? Sima Yu asked. By he, she was naturally referring to Tao Yi-Xian. So what if he agrees or not? I'm not one of the Tao clansmen. If I owed anyone anything, it would be his father. I don't have to give him this respect. Let me tell you, I've already packed all my things and they're all on me. As long as you agree, I won't go home today. Sima Yu looked speechlessly at this guy who could twist anything. If you just leave like this, what will you do with your little disciple? That guy. I left him at home. Left him at home? That's right. I asked him today whether he wanted to leave with me or stay at home. He said he wanted to stay at home, so I left him there. Sima Yu only now felt like he was actually a little weird. He said that he wanted to stay at home because he wanted to protect your home. He doesn't know that you don't plan to return, right? Great Master Ji was stunned. It seemed like he really hadn't told him. You'd better hurry home and take him out. Sima Yu waved her hands disdainfully at him. No rush. I'll return after I finish drinking. Great Master Ji said, in any case, it's not like I have to rush off today. Sima Yu suddenly felt pity for the little child. To have such an unreliable master was similar to how Old Man Devil treated Wu Lingyu. Of course, Great Master Ji left very late that night. After he finished drinking his tea, he dragged her to research some poisons with him and it was already dark by the time he left. Sima Yu sent him off before going to look for Gua Inda to ask him if he had any spare rooms. The Gua clan had booked the entire inn, so she had to ask him for his approval if she wanted to add someone in. She didn't expect that the Gua clansmen had completely filled all the rooms. Gua Inda got two youths to room together in order to give her an empty one. On the second day, Great Master Ji brought the little child along. They just saw a little house and he felt like it was fine. It was the child that furrowed his eyebrows with distaste. It's such a small house, how can we live in it? He said with a pout of his lips. Gua Inda was a little awkward as he stood by the side. This house really was a little small. If you think that it's too small, then you can go and find your own place. In any case, this city is so big, you will definitely be able to find a room that suits your fancy. Sima Yu said, I don't wish to let such an ungrateful person stay with us either. If it were anyone else who chided him, the brat would definitely have retorted. However, since she was the one who said it, he could only lower his head angrily. I didn't say I wouldn't live here. He said in a small voice. Uncle Gua and the others are willing to give you this house. Not because he owes you anything. If you don't know how to be grateful, then you're not worth any good treatment. Got it? When she met Little Tu, he was only a little older than this child. However, he was more obedient and cute. Now that she saw this child acting this way, she couldn't help saying this. She thought about how this child wasn't anyone to her and that his master was still right there, and she had seemed to go a little overboard. She offered an apology to Great Master Ji. Old Ji, sorry. I forgot to mind my mouth for a moment. It's fine. This little guy has always been lacking in discipline. You never cared about it before. Sima Yu criticized him silently, but she didn't say anything. Great Master Ji just stayed there like this, while the Tao clansmen didn't come to look for him at all. The situation with him passed just like that. Previous chapter. Next. It was only until half a month past that incident that Tua Yi Xian finally managed to drag his weary body to the guest house. Sima Yu poured a cup of wine for him and said, you don't look too good. Drink some wine to freshen up. Tao Yi Xian didn't hold back as he finished the tea in one gulp before turning to look at her. She laughed and poured another cup for him. With you acting this way, I would think that after becoming the patriarch, you don't even have water to drink. She teased. It's almost there. Tao Yi Xian said, wasn't it because I wanted to hurry up and settle those things so I could come and see you? So you're saying that you have already started acting? Sima Yu thought about how those words sounded ambiguous and changed the subject. There was no way she really thought that Tao Yi Xian would push himself so hard for her sake. Something like that. We already have most things under control. Tao Yi Xian said, you should give me some concrete information about the people you're looking for, right? Alright. Sima Yu took out 2 portraits and said, this is my master and teacher. They went to the lost place a few tens of years ago. In the beginning, Not many outsiders come to our island, and the time frame of a few tens of years ago is not that long either. We should be able to find them. Tao Yi Xian said, however, we might need a bit of time. When there is any news, just let me know. Sima Yu said. Alright. However, I can't stay in Phoenix City for too long. If I leave, I believe that you will be able to find me. Sima Yu said. You want to leave? Tao Yi Xian said rather anxiously, since your main objective coming here was to look for them, I will dispatch my men to search. You just have to wait for the results. I can't wait. Sima Yu said, also, I'll just be anxious if I remain here. I might as well go out and look for them. You said that they are proficient in alchemy and medical arts? Tao Yi Xian asked. That's right, what about it? If that really is the case, they might join the Crimson Pearl Convention. Crimson Pearl Convention? What is that? Sima Yu asked. That's a convention that involves doctors and alchemists. Those people on the island are too bored and usually enjoy coming up with fun for themselves as well as satisfying their own vanity along the way, showing that they're more powerful than outsiders. Tao Yi Xian said mockingly. You feel like my master and the others will participate in this Crimson Pearl Convention? Sima Yu guessed. Since your master and the others are experts in this area, they might participate, or maybe they have participated in it before. Participated in it before? That's just my guess. If they have participated in it before, there will definitely be traces they left behind. We might even be able to begin our search from there. Then I'll have to trouble you. Sima Yu said, where is the Crimson Pearl Convention held this year? The Crimson Pearl Convention is always held in the 4 large cities this year. It's White Tiger City's turn. White Tiger City. Sima Yu thought about how it was difficult to enter the city at this time and said, is it that you are no longer able to enter White Tiger City by this point in time? You can as long as you have received an invitation. Are you able to help me obtain that invitation? I can. For an outsider to get to participate in this, they required the welcome of the clan. No matter whether they were powerful or not, of high rank or not, they were able to invite participants. As for the Tao clan, which was one of the top 2 clans in Vermilion Bird City, it was natural that they had this right. Thank you. Sima Yu said gratefully. This has always been our agreement, there's no need for thanks. Tao Yi Xian said, I need a bit of time. I'll give it to you tomorrow. Now, there's still a bit of time before the Crimson Pearl Convention. We'll make it in time. Apart from that, I will first send my men to scout for information over there. Since we have this starting point, it will be much easier to check. I'll let you know the moment we obtain information. Alright. Tao Yi Xian left shortly after. At this point in time, he had too many things that he needed to do. He also had to hurry up and get others to check on information regarding Su Jin and strive to give her information by the time she arrived in White Tiger City. On the second morning, Tao Yi Xian did not come over. However, he sent a guard to deliver the invitation. Sima Yu saw a vermilion bird drawn on the invitation and thought of Crimson Flame. If they knew that she had a real vermilion bird with her, what would their reaction be? Young Miss Yu, our patriarch has instructed us as such. If you encounter any danger it is inconvenient for you to let your people out, please release this signal into the air. Our people will hurry along to save you. The guard took out a signal flare and handed it to Sima Yu. I got it. Sima Yu said as she accepted the signal flare. We take our leave. Sima Yu inspected the signal flare in her hands and knew that he was selling her a gift of gratitude. He knew that she had many people with her but would not definitely be able to use them. However, he was giving her a gift of gratitude that was up to her to utilize or not. Since she already obtained the invitation, there was no need to tarry here. She went to look for Gua Inda to say her goodbyes. The other clans had already taken their leave while it was still busy in the Gua clan. She was already beginning to see signs of their development. Are you guys leaving just like this? Gua Inda didn't think that they would leave so quickly. He even thought that they would wait here for Tao Yixian's news. I'm going to participate in the Crimson Pearl Convention. Sima Yu said, although there's still some time, I was thinking of heading over to White Tiger City early to take a look. That's good as well. Then, you guys be careful on the way. If there's anything you need, just contact me. I hope that we will have an opportunity to meet again. Gu Inda said. The heavens are vast and the world is large. We will definitely meet again. Goodbye. Gua Inda and the others watched as Sima Yu's group left. He recalled what happened when he met her and felt moved. To be able to live like they do really isn't bad. Gua Xian was a little envious. With power, you can do whatever you want. At least you know that there are people outside, right? Cultivate hard. Gua Inda urged. When did I not work hard? But I feel that I won't be as confident and carefree as she. Even if she has time she asks for the help of others, she is always able to make things progress smoothly. It's like no matter how difficult a situation, she will be able to solve it easily. Once things in the clan are more stable, you can also head outside to take a look. The world is vast. If you remain on the island, you will be shackled. Alright. It was said that the transportation array in White Tiger City had been closed, so Sima Yu and the others could only wait until they left Vermilion Bird City before calling Halcyon out to fly them to White Tiger City. It was a good thing that Vermilion Bird City was in the south while White Tiger City was west of the island. It wasn't that far, so they didn't have to use so much time traveling via flying beasts. Half the way there, Little Lucky and his ancient spirit beasts returned together. Why is it only you? Where's Little Roar? He left with Big Sister. He said that he would come and look for you later. I missed you, so I returned. Sima Yu knew that Little Lucky was very sticky to her while Little Roar loved to mess around, so she didn't think too much about it as she took her and continued on her journey. When they arrived in White Tiger City, they saw city gates that reached into the sky. There was a white tiger carved along the wall a fixed distance from one another. There was a very realistic looking white tiger that made it look like there was a white tiger standing on the wall, roaring ferociously towards heaven. Sima Yu focused her attention on it as she suddenly thought of something she had never questioned before. Vermilion Bird was with her, but where were the other three divine beasts? Previous chapter. Azure Dragon of the East, White Tiger of the West, Vermilion Bird of the South and Black Tortoise of the North. These four great divine beasts were the protectors of the continent and ensured the peace of the world. The Vermilion Bird was with her, but the remaining Azure Dragon, White Tiger and Black Tortoise, where were these three? Also, why was Crimson Flame so injured? When she met him, that egg was actually already dead. So, just how long had he waited there? Crimson Flame had never told her any of these things and she had never thought of it before. Now that she saw White Tiger, she began to ponder about this question. Crimson Flame, there were still many things that he kept from her. She decided that when the time came, she would definitely look for Crimson Flame to clarify all of this. It turns out that she didn't expect that before she even managed to ask, others would come knocking on her door bringing her into the middle of another stormy chaos. Feng Zhixing and the others saw her zoning out in front of the White Tiger and knew what she was probably thinking. They didn't say anything either as they waited for her to come back to her senses. As they stood there, the guards were unhappy. Hey, are you coming into the city or not? You can't enter White Tiger City now, so you better go somewhere else. Those people saw that they were outsiders at a glance and those outsiders who didn't have an invitation were unable to enter right now. These people had stood there for such a long time, which meant that they definitely didn't have an invitation. Sima Yu looked away from the White Tiger statue and walked in front of the guard. She took out her invitation. You have an invitation? The guard was rather puzzled, but he still took the invitation and looked at it. The Tao clan from the Vermilion Bird City? I never heard that they were inviting anyone. Sima Yu didn't speak. She didn't need to answer this kind of question. As expected, after the guard ascertained the authenticity of the invitation, he returned it to her and said, so you're here to attend the Crimson Pearl Convention. In that case, you may enter. Sima Yu smiled at him and said a word of thanks. Then, she led her men away. The guards of this White Tiger City are pretty decent. That proves that the people in White Tiger City shouldn't be too bad either. Su Xiaoxiao said. When we went out for a spin, we heard that the people of Vermilion Bird City and White Tiger City had rather strained relations, but while we were considered to have come from the Vermilion Bird City, they didn't make things difficult for us. Han Miao Shuang said. That works as well? That's right. In any case, Vermilion Bird City does have some powers whose cultures are pretty bad. So I'm guessing that they must have done some hateful things. We merely received their invitation to participate in the competition, so they naturally wouldn't make things difficult for us. Sima Yu said, however, this white tiger city really is pretty white. The houses here seem to have been constructed from white stones. There would occasionally be a splash of color, but those were rare. Let's find a place to stay. Huang Yingning said. And so, they walked around for a day, but even though they were in the city all the way from day to night, but they didn't find a single empty inn. Apart from outsiders, there were people who had come from other places. That was why the inns were all packed. As for the inns that were not completely filled, those rooms had already been booked in advance. Hence, they were not allowed to rent them. Let's ask this one. If that doesn't work, we have no choice but to rough it out on the streets. Han Miao Shuang said tearfully. Give it a try. There must be a way. Sima Yu didn't expect the inns here to be so popular. They entered the inn and saw the innkeeper behind the desk. Before they spoke, they heard the innkeeper say, my apologies, guests. Our inn has already been reserved. Reserved again? Sigh, it seems like we really have to rough it out on the streets. It's the first time in my life that I have to sleep on the streets. Did you guys not manage to get a room? The innkeeper looked at the lady and bowed, saying, Lady Xuewu, what are you doing downstairs? I'm missing the flavor of tea, so I wanted to take a look at the tea house. Mo Xuewu replied. Then, she turned to Han Miao Shuang and said, you said just now that you would have to sleep on the streets? We've been looking for inns all day, but they're either fully filled or have been reserved. Han Miao Shuang said with a shrug, looking helpless. This kind of thing happens all the time during the Crimson Pearl Convention. Didn't you guys reserve an inn before you came? After saying this, Mo Xuewu felt like she had been a bit rude. My apologies, I didn't notice that you were outsiders. Did you just arrive on the island? We did. It's no wonder you were not familiar with this. Mo Xuewu said, I'm afraid that there aren't many inns in the entire White Tiger City. Sima Yu and the others exchanged glances. It turns out that was really the outcome. Why don't we do this? Innkeeper, we seem to have a few rooms extra. Just give it to them. Mo Xuewu said. As long as young Miss Xuewu agrees, then that's no problem. However, we don't have enough rooms. You guys have to pair up and share a room with 2 people to a room. That's no problem. It's better than sleeping out in the streets. This isn't a big deal. Su Xiaoxiao said. We'll have to thank young Miss Xuewu, then. They were really grateful towards this lady. I'm called Mo Xuewu, you can just call me Xuewu. Mo Xuewu smiled, you guys can go ahead and stay in them first. In any case, we've all come to join the Crimson Pearl Convention and I might have to come look for you guys to discuss anything. I'm going to buy some herbs so I'll be leaving now. After speaking, she smiled at everyone before passing them as they paid for the rooms. Innkeeper, who was the young lady from before? She's so nice. Han Miao Shuang asked. They is the young Miss Mo Xuewu from the Azure City's Mo clan. The Mo clan is one of the kindest clans. Our inn was reserved by the Mo clan. Innkeeper said, since young Miss Xuewu has agreed, you guys can come with me. I will arrange your rooms. The kindest clan? The implication of the words said by the innkeeper was too subtle, was it? However, Mo Xuewu was really a kind person. The others of the Mo clan are staying in the rooms above. Only a few rooms on this side remain. Innkeeper said, the lights in these rooms aren't too good and are a little small, which is why they are empty. However, they are still very clean. It's fine as long as they are clean. The other things don't matter. Huang Yingning said. Because there weren't enough rooms, in the end, grandfather and grandmother roomed together, master and father shared one, Su Xiaoxiao and Jiang Junxian shared one, Sima Yu and Han Miao Shuang shared one while Great Master Ji and the child shared one. They had just settled down when a bustling noise came from outside. They looked out the window and saw that the young masters of the Mo clan had returned. The innkeeper told them about how Mo Xuewu had kept some strangers and those young masters merely furrowed their eyebrows lightly without saying anything. They didn't get others to chase them away. It seems like the words of the innkeeper were right. The Mo clansmen are all rather kind. Han Miao Shuang said as she closed her windows. With absolute power, they will not be afraid of evil. Sima Yu said with a smile. Han Miao Shuang agreed when she thought about it. If they did not have power, casually doing good deeds might bring them destruction anytime. However, if they did it under the circumstance that they were powerful, even if they were really careless and encountered some bad people, it would not bring them too much danger. Just now, the others from the Mo clan didn't say anything either when they heard about it. When we meet them later, we should give them a word of thanks. It wasn't that they had no choice but to stay in the inn. If they really couldn't find any inn, they could just stay in the little realm. However, it was out of the goodness of their heart that they let them stay here, so they still had to thank them. Sima Lu Xian and the others knew this well. Although they heard some commotion later on, they went to give their thanks to the Mo clan. Sima Yu knew that they had gone, so she didn't have to bother with this. However, although they kept them, the other party did not pay much attention to them. Everyone just did what they were supposed to do later on, and Sima Yu didn't see the young masters of the Mo clan. However, during this period of time, Sima Yu had a clearer sense of this Crimson Pearl Convention. The Crimson Pearl Convention was divided into 3 portions. One was alchemy, one was medical arts and another was poison. Sima Yu didn't think that they would even include a portion on poisons, and didn't look favorably on it like the outsiders. There was still 1 month to go before the convention started, so Sima Yu was not anxious. She wandered around outside with Han Miao Shuang and the others, wanting to see if she could find out some information about Su Jin and the others. Initially, she thought that the previous two Crimson Pearl conventions were not held here, so she might not be able to get any information about Su Jin. However, it actually brought her a nice surprise. Do you guys know Su Jin and Gulang? The two who came out at the top of the Crimson Pearl convention the last time in Black Tortoise. How could I not? I heard that the two of them were really powerful to the point where the people from our island couldn't even compete. These kinds of idiots, are they able to win even in this kind of place? In the end, they offended the Wu clan for no reason. The Wu clan initially thought that they would be able to win first place, but they won it in the end, so they started a feud. Those two outsiders, TSKT, no way, right? I heard the Wu clan came to look for them after, wanting them to stay behind as guests. However, didn't they disagree and chose to leave? It didn't seem like the Wu clan did anything to them. Did they really leave? It wasn't a diversion or anything. Did they go to the Black Tortoise Hao clan? Why would you say that? I heard that the Hao clan's alchemy and medical arts have grown quite a bit. It has the same style as the two of them. No way, right? The Hao clan is one of the largest clans in Black Tortoise City. Why would they invite two outsiders? In any case, if that were true, why didn't others not get a single bit of information? That's true. Inside the private room, Sima Yu and her other three fellow disciples exchanged glances and noted the Wu clan and Hao clan in their hearts. After those outside spoke of this, they didn't mention Su Jin and the others anymore. They changed the topic and spoke on other things related to the Crimson Pearl convention. Sima Yu and the others stayed in the tea house until those outside and left but did not glean any more useful information. That night, Sima Yu also received news that Tao Yixian had sent her. Sima Yu sensed some commotion outside her room and ran outside. Young Miss Yu, are you one of Tao Yixian's men? I am. Young master wanted me to send young Miss Yu some items. What items? The black-robed man did not reply as he took out a letter and tossed it at her. Sima Yu caught it and that person seized the opportunity to slip away. Sima Yu was stunned. However, when she returned home, Sima Yu recognized that person. He was a young master from the Mo clan. They looked each other in the eye. Sima Yu walked over and bowed to the young master from the... I heard some commotion so I came out to see what the matter was. Young Master Mo said, is young Miss Yu well acquainted with the Tao clan? Sima Yu knew why he had asked her this. Thinking about it, it was because the young miss of the Mo clan had gotten them to stay, and he was afraid that they were making use of Mo Shuewu's kindness to harm them. It was said that the young master of the Hao clan pampered her a lot. She initially thought that she would feel it beneath her to explain, but she didn't know why. She thought of Sima Yuming and the others, who were extremely protective over her. She tossed the letter in her hand over to him. The letter hadn't been opened yet, so Sima Yu didn't look at it yet. Young Master Mo hesitated for a moment before opening it. After reading it, he handed it back to her rather apologetically. The letter only contained information that Tao Yixian had obtained regarding Su Jin and the others. There was nothing like what he guessed. My sincerest apologies. He apologized for reading the letter as well as for the suspicions he held against her. Sima Yu took the letter and wasn't angry. She smiled. Young Miss Shuewu has a few good older brothers. I have a few of my own, so I can understand young Master Mo's intentions and thoughts. When she said this, the relationship between the both of them improved. They walked back together. You came to this island, the lost place, to look for your master and teacher? That's right. Sima Yu nodded. They came in first in the Crimson Pearl convention for the portions on alchemy and medical arts. Young Master Mo, did you know about it? Su Jin and Gulang? Mo Shuiyang was rather confused. The letter wrote about her master and teacher, so it didn't mention their names. That's right, you know it as well. If he knew anything, it might be able to give her a lead. However, he shook his head. I didn't participate the last time. I only heard of their names. I see. Sima Yu was a little disappointed. It seems like she had to begin investigating from what she obtained today. However, I noticed that the letter mentioned the Hao clan. If you went against them, you have to be extremely careful. Mo Shuiyang said. Why? The Hao clan is the largest clan in Black Tortoise City, but their methods are not worthy of praise. They just happen to be very powerful as well, so you must be careful. Mo Shuiyang reminded her. I got it, thank you for your reminder. If we really have to face them, I will be careful. Sima Yu said with a nod. They returned to the inn and happened to bump into Sima Lu Xian and the others who had come out to look for her. Yu, are you alright? Although Sima Lu Xian was looking at Sima Yu, his eyes were trained on Mo Shuiyang who was standing by the side. Hugged onto her tightly, by one leg and not go outside to play son. You don't need to worry about this matter. They have established an anti-black-robed alliance, and when the black-robed men are sorted out bit by bit, they won't be so difficult to deal with anymore. One of the hardest things is when one is in the open while the enemy is in the dark. The other party can catch one off guard, but one will have no idea which direction to target when one wants to take the initiative to attack. What she knew now was the Xian Qiu clan. Although they were gone, it was much easier to use it as a basis for their investigation as a starting point. There were still many forces in this world, and it was not so difficult for everyone to unite. At least for the past 2 years, there has been less time for black-robed men to come out and cause trouble. Sometimes they will find the hideouts of black-robed men and take the initiative to attack. You have 2 children now, and Wu Lingyu is not here. You have to spend more time taking care of them. I'll pick 2 girls for you, how can only one and lay be enough? Sima Ji Yuan said. No need. The children won't be staying at home. Sima Yu shook her head. What? Why? Sima Yu touched the heads of the 2 little guys and said reluctantly, they will stay in the underworld for a few years, and they will come and take them back after 2 days. Why? You don't have time to take care of the two little guys, keep them in the family, we will definitely take care of them well. Why do you have to send them to the underworld? Huang Yingying said unhappily. Sima Yu talked about Wu Xiaodao's extremely bad life and Xiao Yao Yao taking the jade seal, and also talked about Hades's plan. After listening to her words, everyone opened their mouths, but nothing came out. Xiao Dao turned out to be such a cute girl, and turned out to have a star-crossed fate. As if to confirm her words, Xiao Dao let go of her mother's legs and hid behind to play. The flower stand that had been standing there sturdily suddenly tilted, and the vase on it fell. Crash! The vase smashed to the ground with a crisp sound. Everyone looked at it and saw Xiao Dao frowning at the fragments on the ground. She didn't know why the vase suddenly shattered beside them. Sima Yu walked over, unlocked the space blockade, and picked up Xiao Dao. Things like this often happen. Since she can crawl, she needs to be extra careful. Sima Yu sat back with Wu Xiao Dao in her arms. When she was 1 year old, Hades found this jade pendant for her, and it would be better. Everyone looked at the good vase shelf. If it wasn't for the vase above, they wouldn't know what happened just now. Is there a solution? Yuko Luo asked. It said that you have to meet the person you hit before you can resolve it. Sima Yu said, being with me, my destiny can be suppressed a little bit. As the king of a realm, Hades' destiny is good, be with him. It's fine too. If you are with other people, it is estimated that even the others will be unlucky. Seeing their frowning faces, Sima Yu smiled and said, you don't have to worry too much, things will turn against each other. I believe Xiao Dao is like this, there must be great luck awaiting her. Hopefully so. Knowing this, they would not object to the underworld taking the child away. Their lives and futures are more important than their love for the two children. Sima Yu walked over and picked him up, came to insanely pampered wife. Sima Yu was not surprised when she saw that her fire dragon was easily destroyed by him in such a manner. Her current strength, because she has absorbed the power of the Emperor Qing Dao, and has no understanding, can be said to be skyrocketing. Even if you don't get promoted to the Emperor, it's not too far off. Not to mention, she added Little Fire's power, even if it wasn't as powerful as Little Birdie, it was enough to give an Emperor a headache. However, he devoured her fire dragon just like that. Sure enough, it was an evil force that has lived for hundreds of thousands of years. Even if it hasn't fully merged with Xian Qiuhe's body, it's still so powerful. At this moment, she knew that her strength was not enough to deal with him, and just as she was about to call out Black Shadow and the others, Xian Qiuhe appeared in front of her. A force imprisoned her, making her unable to move. Even if Black Shadow, Huan and Chanjiu came out, they couldn't deal with him. Realizing this, she gave up calling them out. And this happened all in a split second. Xian Qiuhe grabbed her neck with one hand, rubbed her face with the other, and murmured, no wonder, with such a face, no wonder it attracts him and makes him so crazy for you. What he dares not do, I will do it. For him. After saying that, he leaned down and wanted to kiss her. Sima Yu broke free from his restraint, flipped her right hand up, and imbued the flames of Little Birdie in her palm and struck ruthlessly towards his chest. Xian Qiuhe reacted very quickly, but when she broke free from the restraint, it surprised him for a moment. Almost at the same time, he let go of her and avoided the blow that was struck at his chest. However, his left arm was still burned by Little Birdie. Xian Qiuhe grabbed her arm, pushed it behind her back, and imprisoned her again. I didn't expect that you would actually want to kill me. If one die, he will die too. You cruel woman. He whispered in her ear, and the two looked extremely ambiguous. Sima Yu's right hand was not free, and her left hand broke the confinement, and pulled out Little Birdie's Flame King to attack from behind. Insanely pampered wife, divine doctor. Previous chapter. A short moment after Sima Yu and Mo Shuewu chatted, exterminated and the others stopped paying attention. Although they could be considered to know one another, there was no need to waste time on this. However, she still secretly considered some things and decided to release a few of her scarlet bees to follow them carefully. After all, the murderous intent in her eyes was obvious. This petty little lady. It was true that a person of low status was hard to raise. They entered the meeting place and it was only then that Sima Yu knew that, apart from the Northern Du clan and the Eastern Lai clan, the other secret clans had come as well. It seemed like the Xian Qiu clan was the only one who didn't send a representative. Thinking of the Xian Qiu clan, Sima Yu felt even more complicated. She wondered whether or not Xian Qiu he had been punished by the Xian Qiu's clan. After that incident happened, she was afraid that they would be as open with each other as before when they met. Sigh. Let's go in. The competition is about to begin. Mo Shuewu reminded her. The 3 different competitions were not held in the same place, so Sima Yu and the other 2 split up. They were going to compete in alchemy while she was going to compete in medicine. Mo Shuewu was going to participate in medicine as well, so the both of them entered the place together. They will bring over some sick people in a while. Those people all have complicated illnesses, and everyone will pick 10 of them when the time comes. Then, they will see who finished the quickest or who cures the most of them. 10 hard cases, this was still rather fair. It was impossible that there would be those with good luck and pick 10 easy ones. Of course, it was impossible to make someone treat them non-stop, so the time was limited. They were given 10 days. For 10 days, they were to remain here with those sick people. Or they could leave earlier if they finished treating all 10 of them. Sima Yu and Mo Shuewu went to report their names together. Once they were recorded, they walked over and went to wait at the side for everyone to gather. They took out a bamboo pipe and got everyone to draw tags. On the tag they wrote a corresponding number, and every doctor would take that tag to where the sick people were. Those sick people had long since been divided into groups. Then, the in-charge would take the doctor's tag and, after looking at the number written on it, divided the sick people to them and let them bring them to the room that had been prepared. Sima Yu picked tag number 14 while Mo Shuewu picked tag 49. The both of them were pretty far away because the rooms they would treat the patients in were already set. Yu, I know that you are very powerful. We didn't have any opportunity to compare notes before, so this is our opportunity to compete. All the best. Same to you. Sima Yu took the sick people who were tagged to her tag number 14 to her room. The room was a temporary one and had no door. The people outside were able to have a clear view of what would be going on in there. Sima Yu got them to choose a bed to lie down on. She did not start treatment immediately, taking their medical records to examine first. These 10 people of hers really had considerably difficult cases. There were 2 that she had really never encountered before. However, she was not too worried. The conditions of these 10 people were not really considered difficult to her. Even if she had never encountered it, she was still able to figure it out. Sima Yu first took the pulses of the 10 of them and compared it to the medical records, ascertaining that each of them was inflicted with what was written. What she did differently from everyone else was that other doctors did not examine all the illnesses together. Instead, they chose one, examined the records of that one, examined them, treated them, then prescribed them the medicine. Once they were done with treating that one, only then did they go to the next sick person. The others did the same in the past. That was why, for Sima Yu to treat all 10 of them at the same time was something that everyone noticed was different. There were some who began to whisper amongst themselves, saying that she was just doing this to please the crowds. Others seemed to have been reminded of another person when they saw her doing this. The one who took first place in the previous competition had also treated all 10 of them at the same time. Although at the last minute, there were still those who missed it by that much and did not manage to hit the mark. The other thing that was similar to back then was that the both of them were outsiders. The one from before who was known as Gulang had also been thought to be too arrogant in the beginning. It was only all the way at the end before they knew that the other party really had the ability. As for this outsider, she had chosen the same method as that guy. They wondered whether or not she would be able to produce the same results. Mo Shuewu heard the discussions from outside and knew that a very powerful person had appeared this time. She just didn't know who it was. In the beginning, she thought of Sima Yu, but then she shook her head. She knew how young Sima Yu was. She wasn't even 100 years old. How could she be the genius that everyone was talking about? When she thought up to this point, she no longer cared about the situation outside and focused her attention onto the sick people in front of her instead. It went without saying that Mo Shuewu was truly a kind-hearted person. Most young misses of the large clans would have vomited upon seeing these sick people. However, not only did she not, she was even sympathetic. Those wounds were already festered with worms. How pitiful these people were. Otherwise, their vital organs were all injured, that was tormenting. That kindness poured forth and, when she treated their injuries, she tried her best to be gentle. However, Sima Yu was different. In order to place first, she had to treat them to a certain standard. Because some illnesses would need a longer time to heal and 10 days were not enough, there were standards she had to hit. As long as she could treat the person to that standard, she was considered to have passed. That was why, in order to make full use of the time, she was not as gentle when it came to treating those people. However, she had already given them a numbing agent before starting, so those people didn't feel any pain at all. Every single group had a person who had inner and outer injuries of many types for the sake of fairness. Sima Yu very quickly healed the wounds of 2 people. After feeding them pills that she had refined, she got them to rest at the side. By the time it reached the end, their conditions had already been cured completely, causing everyone on site to be filled with praises. Of course, this only happened later. After treating those with external injuries, Sima Yu began working on the other sick people. These sick people had rather complex situations, but they were still pretty much healed after undergoing a combination of her acupuncture and pill treatment. Once the final person had been treated, it had only been 6 days. She pulled the bell on her door, signaling that she was done with treatment. Those judges could come and inspect her results. Those judges were rather puzzled. They had been judges for so many years, but this was the first time that they had seen someone complete the treatment on the 6th day. That was why they were all curious and wanted to see just who was able to complete the mission in such a short time. As such, Sima Yu's judges were the most complete group in the competition this time. Sima Yu was at the door and those judges were stunned when they saw how young she was. You are the doctor allocated to this room? Previous chapter. Next chapter. Sima Yu bowed towards the judges and said, I am. You have already treated them all? Indeed. Judges, please make your evaluation. Sima Yu retreated to the side after speaking. The first step was to inspect the bodies of the 10 people, this was to prevent them from switching any of them out. Very quickly, they ascertained that these 10 people were indeed the 10 sick people from before. Actually, there was completely no need for this step. That was because the rooms were not fitted with doors and outsiders were all able to clearly see what was happening inside. There was also a person in charge allocated to the outside of every room to observe and guard the inside. You want to switch the people out? There was no door and there weren't even windows. Once they ascertained the identities of the 10 people, they looked at their medical records. If they didn't ascertain the identities of these 10 people, they might not have believed that these 10 people were once inflicted with hopeless illnesses. As every single sick person came out from the room, they would also read out the sickness that they were previously inflicted with. When those around them saw how they were now compared to before, they suddenly felt like the person inside was a divine doctor. 10 of them. The judges very quickly obtained Sima Yu's results this time. Every single sick person was healed beyond expectations. Furthermore, it had been done so quickly. If she didn't take first place, nobody would. After Sima Yu was done, she didn't leave but chose a place to sit down and rest, as if she was waiting for someone. When she acted this way, those people knew that she was the divine doctor who had completed first. Sitting in the resting area, she leisurely brewed herself some tea while examining whether or not there were any Hao clansmen who had their eye on her. Not to mention the Hao clan, the other clans began to offer her olive branches and many gave her invitations, inviting her as a guest to their residence once this Crimson Pearl convention was over. Sima Yu looked at those invitations and smiled. She chose 2 of them, then remained silent as she placed them to the side. By the time Mo Shuewu came out after 2 days, the invitations she possessed were already stacked as high as the height of half a person. Mo Shuewu saw Sima Yu sitting there resting and was first stunned before she laughed and walked over. I thought that by coming out earlier, I would be able to take first place. Does that mean that the divine doctor everyone is talking about is you? Mo Shuewu said with a smile, what are you still doing here? Didn't we agree that whoever came out earlier would wait for the other one so we could leave today? How could I renege on my words? Sima Yu kept the invitations into her interspatial ring. Mo Shuewu recalled their earlier conversation and they did agree to leave together. However, she thought that she would be the one waiting for her. She didn't expect her to come out first. Let's go. We'll head back to the inn. I'm guessing that the outside is definitely talking about your divine medicinal skills. Mo Shuewu pulled her along and they left via the passage for doctors. However, when they were at the exit, Sima Yu pulled Mo Shuewu back. We can't go out just like that. She smiled in response to Mo Shuewu's puzzled gaze. Listen. Mo Shuewu listened and it was extremely outside. It went without saying that there were definitely many people outside waiting for her. If she boldly went outside, she would definitely be dragged down by them. Then what do we do? Mo Shuewu looked at her helplessly. Sima Yu grabbed her hand and smiled secretively. Then, she brought her through a passage and disappeared. As for those people who had chased after her, they watched as 2 people just disappeared. When Mo Shuewu returned to the inn, she felt like something was off. It didn't feel like she had sensed any fluctuations in space. She looked at Sima Yu with shock, secretly thinking that her spatial abilities were too powerful. Sima Yu released her hands and laughed, it's a lot quieter now. However, they should be waiting for us outside the gathering area. Mo Shuewu said. Sima Yu thought about it. Alchemy and poisons didn't take as long as the doctor's competition. That was why they had come out long ago and were waiting for the doctor's competition to end to mark the closing of the Crimson Pearl convention. So she took out her mother's stone and contacted Sima Lu Xian and the others, telling them that she had already returned to the inn. Father, Master and the others were really over at the meeting area. When they heard that she had returned, they returned to the inn. Mo Shuewu had already gone upstairs, telling Mo Shueyang and the others about the convention. When she told them about Sima Yuyu's divine healing skills, she was in adoration. Especially when she said that she had brought her back using spatial skills. Her eyes and words were gushing with envy. Mo Shueyang smiled lightly, who would have thought that Lady Sima would look so young yet be so powerful. It's really unexpected. Mo Shuewu agreed. While Mo Shueyang was chatting with his younger sister, his mind had already wandered far away. He knew what Sima Yuyu wanted to do, and had also seen them mention the Hao clan in Tua Yi Xian's letter. He had personally gotten his people to investigate what happened to the person who took first place and from it, found out that Su Jin and the others had likely been captured by the Hao clan. Usually, outsiders wouldn't snatch the first position in the Crimson Pearl Convention because this would embarrass those from the island. However, this time was a little different from the previous time. Why Su Jin and the others would take first place, he had no idea. However, he was able to guess what Sima Yuyu's motive was. She definitely wanted to infiltrate the Hao clan. However, was the Hao clan so easy to enter? If she was the slightest bit careless, even she would get trapped inside. However, she had no choice but to do it. However, during this period of time that they interacted, he realized that Sima Yuyu was a person with a lot of confidence. She definitely wouldn't do anything dangerous that would cause her to fall into trouble. He was a little curious about what cards she had to play. Just what gave her the confidence and peace that she would be able to leave the Hao clan. Thinking up to this point, he became a lot more interested in Sima Yuyu than in her confidence in her infallibility. When Sima Lu Xian and the others returned to the inn, they headed directly to Sima Yuyu's room to tell her what the people outside were saying. Jiang Junxian and the others didn't obtain first place in alchemy and could only wait for them together. However, what surprised her more was that Eastern Li took first place in alchemy while the one who took first place in poisons was Northern Du Hao. Sima Yuyu knew that Eastern Li was highly proficient in alchemy, so that wasn't too strange. What surprised her was that Northern Du Hao was proficient in the use of poison. What made it even more confusing for her was how the both of them managed to clinch first place. It was said that nobody from the secret clans had won these types of competitions before. The people who came out from the secret clans were naturally not weak, but none of them had achieved first place. Why did things change now? She believed that this was not a coincidence. Junior sister, there were some people who, while they were refining pills, were using the method that Master taught us. Su Xiao said. Sima Yuyu was stunned as she asked, were they from the Hao clan? Previous chapter. Next chapter. Since they had the same refining methods as they did, didn't that mean that it was possible that Su Jin had taught that person? However, Jiang Junxian shook his head. It's not. Sima Yuyu was shocked, then who was it? An outsider like us. However, he seemed to possess an invitation from the Hao clan. Sima Yuyu sat by the side of the table and supported her chin with her left hand. She would occasionally knock against the table with the fingers of her right hand. Outsider. She muttered, over at your alchemist competition, could you receive any reward after winning a prize? Of course. It's the same for your doctor side. Han Miao Shuang said, it can't be that you don't even know this, right? Of course I know that, it's just that I only cared about taking first place. I didn't care much for the reward and things like that. Sima Yuyu sighed, also, I'm really asking whether there was any special reward over at your alchemy side? Nothing special. Han Miao Shuang thought about it again, those things are considered ordinary here, but maybe it's relatively special to outsiders. I'm guessing that the Hao clan might have pushed those people out as shields. Sima Yuyu said, right now, the arrow is already on the bow. I'm going to the Hao clan to take a look first. If there's nothing there, we will continue to check. We can only do this for now. Right, you guys should pay attention to the Eastern Li clan and Northern Du clan for a while. I keep feeling like something is off. Sima Yuyu said. Off? Sima Yuyu nodded, in the past, they would always stay low-key when they were in the lost place. However, they were very outstanding this time. Furthermore, Eastern Li and Northern Du Hao are walking together. Don't you find it strange? One time could be a coincidence, but if it happens twice, it may not be so. No matter what they want to do, I don't care as long as it doesn't impact us. Feng Zhixing said. I'm afraid that it will impact us. Us. Sima Yuyu sighed. She should probably say that her intuition told her that there was a high chance it would impact her. Why? We bumped into Eastern Li and Northern Du Hao today. The both of them looked at junior sister with a murderous gaze. Han Miao Shuang said. They want to kill you? Feng Zhixing's expression was extremely dark, if I knew this earlier, we should have let Supreme Fifth Spirit Senior kill her. Huh? My father didn't kill that lowlife? Little Lucky crawled out from Sima Yuyu's back, how could my father do something so unreliable? Everyone. Sima Yuyu patted Little Lucky's head, saying, it wasn't that your father didn't kill her, it's that I saved her from him. Little Lucky touched her forehead, Yuyu, did your brain malfunction at that time? Ha 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 dash, everyone laughed. This guy's words were really cutting. Sima Yuyu told him what happened back then and thought that Little Lucky would understand. However, she didn't expect him to nod his head solemnly, saying, it seems like it really malfunctioned back then. You were being silly. Sima Yuyu. Although you shouldn't have, she's already been rescued. Feng Zhixing said, so if they dare to do anything to you, even if they're from the hidden clans, we can't let them off again. I'm thinking the same thing. If they don't do anything, we don't have to bother with them. However, if they dare to do anything to us, we'll make sure they won't return alive. Everyone just has to be more careful these few days. If you want to leave the place, you definitely have to go together. Don't leave this place on your own. Also, the moment you encounter them, it doesn't matter whether or not they do anything to you. You definitely have to tell everyone else. Sima Yu instructed. We will be careful with issues regarding the secret. However, junior sister, when are you going to head to the Hao clan? Han Miaoshuang asked. The Hao clan has already extended their invitation to me. However, I can't go over so quickly. Let's let them wait for a few days. If she hurried to go over, they would not be sucked in. If she agreed from the beginning, would they still capture her? Sima Yu selected a few large powers. Then, after a few days passed, she started to visit them clan by clan. Those people did not look down on her purely for being an outsider. However, they were all rejected. There was only one reason. Her clan was outside and she would not remain on the island. She came out from the inn and realized that someone was tailing her. She smirked. How could the Hao clan be unable to hold back after such a short time? In order to make things more convenient, she turned down a small alley and was waiting for the person to act. When it was less than a meter away from her, she stretched forth a hand and grabbed it tightly. She said through gritted teeth, you still know how to return. She lifted Little Roar by his neck and his 4 little legs wriggled chaotically in the air. His 2 eyes turned as 2 teardrops were forced out, saying pitifully, Yu, I missed you so much. The moment I saw you, I immediately flew over so quickly. It would be weird if Sima Yu believed him. She poked him with her other hand. Missed me? You looked beyond yourself with joy instead. How could you say that? I missed you. He wanted to place his paws across his heart, but they were too short and his position was not right, so he couldn't do it at all. Is that so? Sima Yu looked at him lightly. Really, really. Truer than gold. Little Roar did his best to make himself look like that really was the case. There was no way he would ever admit that the time he had spent with Shrine Maiden was filled with game and joy, where he passed every day comfortably. You sure that you didn't come here to be someone's spokesman? Spokesman? What spokesman? Little Roar looked at the sky, trying to act innocent. Sima Yu had long since seen through his intentions. He didn't admit it, so she casually tossed him away and almost tossed him into a pile of rubbish by the corner. Ah, you almost tossed me on top of the rubbish. Little Roar protested. Sima Yu ignored him. She looked at the person standing by the alleyway and said, say it, you've been following me the entire way. What do you want to do? The person didn't speak since the time Little Roar appeared. Now that she had paid him attention, he said, my patriarch extends an invitation. Who is your patriarch? I've seen many people recently, and I don't remember your master. You, that person. Little Roar wanted to tell her that she recognized this person, but she shut him up with a look. The black-robed man was already used to Little Roar and his expression didn't change. He said very respectfully, young Miss Yu, master said that he won't take your boat travel fees next time. Sima Yu pursed her lips, knowing who he was talking about. Apart from the person who had extorted a lot of money from her, who else could it be? Lead the way. She nodded at the person. The person turned around to leave and she followed after him. Little Roar wanted to rush up, but she grabbed him and tossed him back and he was almost tossed into the rubbish heap again. Previous chapter. Sima Yu followed that person into the tea house. It happened not to be too far from this place. It was no wonder Little Roar said that he found her the moment he saw her while she didn't sense his aura at all. The entire tea house was empty apart from a few guards at the entrance, but there weren't that many people to protect. She follows the person to the private room at the 3rd level and heard him say to the man inside, Master, Lady Yu is here. Come in. It was a familiar voice, but it carried an otherworldly sense of laziness. Sima Yu pushed the door and entered. When she saw the 2 people sitting inside, she was stunned. She wasn't surprised to see Helmsman Tua, but it surprised her that the Shrine Maiden was actually sitting beside him drinking tea calmly. Little Roar saw Shrine Maiden and flew from the door in one fell swoop, landing in front of the cakes and pastries in front of her. Why are you zoning out there? Didn't you get Little Roar and the others to lure her out for a spin so that she wouldn't involve herself in the Tao clan's matters? Helmsman Tua said lightly. At this moment, Shrine Maiden lifted her head to glance at her as well, but her eyes didn't carry the slightest bit of blame. She chuckled and walked over to sit opposite them. When she saw Little Roar, she guessed that Shrine Maiden was here. What surprised her was that she was not acting aloof and above the common people, but was actually sitting in this bustling city drinking tea. It couldn't be that she was just out here for a date, right? She didn't know how Helmsman Tua knew about the incident regarding the Tao clan. However, seeing how he was, she knew that his identity wasn't simple. You want to infiltrate the Hao clan? Helmsman Tua paid no attention to her silence and continued to ask. Yes. Sima Yu didn't hide it. Since he knew about the Tao clan, it wasn't strange that he should know about this as well. Do you understand the Hao clan? I understand, from the booklet you gave me. Sima Yu said. Helmsman Tua was initially wondering how this brat had actually managed to understand the Hao clan so quickly and wasn't bad. He didn't expect the later half of her sentence and was almost unable to bring his thoughts back around. Since you know the inside information about the Hao clan, you should know how dangerous the thing you are about to attempt is. Do you need my help? Helmsman Tua asked. Sima Yu lifted her eyes and looked at him. As long as I help you, your master and teacher will definitely be able to emerge safely. Helmsman Tua said confidently. What's the catch? Great Island Master. Sima Yu said slowly. How did you know my identity? Helmsman Tua asked. Based on the information he received, she did not do any research into him. I guessed it. Sima Yu did not want to continue talking about it and said, tell me what conditions you have. If Helmsman Tua was able to help her, she would not need to go about it in a roundabout way. Of course, the conditions first had to be right. Actually, it's nothing much. You just have to promise to stay here for a few years. Helmsman Tua said. He felt that his condition was very simple and easy to obtain. Sima Yu was unlikely to reject him. However, he didn't think that Sima Yu would reject him without even thinking. I still have things I need to do. I cannot stay here. She said, although if you help me, it will make things a lot easier, I have more important things I need to do outside. Helmsman Tua was not angry as he pointed at Little Roar and said, then let this guy remain behind for a few years. To say he's powerful, he's not. To say he has abilities, he doesn't. He only knows how to eat, drink and be merry all day. He's not very useful to what you want to do, so it won't matter if he's not by your side. Little Roar, who was currently happily stuffing his face with pastries, sensed danger and wiped his mouth hurriedly and pounced into Sima Yu's embrace. You can't toss me here all alone. He grabbed onto Sima Yu's clothes and looked at her pitifully. Although Sima Yu had not thought about it yet, he knew that he only knew how to mess around outside. What if Sima Yu agreed? If he knew this, he would have come back together with Little Lucky earlier. Helmsman Tua looked at her, waiting for her to make her decision. This time, she didn't reject him immediately. Why do you want Little Roar to remain behind? She asked. As a companion for Little Shrine. It's rare for her to fancy someone. Helmsman Tua said. Then why did you not choose Little Lucky? Although Little Lucky follows you as well, you don't have the power to decide. If I chose him, you would definitely disagree. But this guy is different. He is your contracted beast. Whatever you get him to do he wouldn't dare to disagree. Helmsman Tua slowly said. With the power of the contract, contracted beasts were not able to disobey their master's orders. Little Roar went rigid. He had never thought about this before because Yu had treated him so well and never requested for him to do anything he didn't want to do. However, if she really ordered him to remain here, he would not be able to refuse. When he thought about this, he became solemn and was not as energetic as before. When Sima Yu saw him this way, she stopped teasing him and said to Helmsman Tua, Little Roar has been with me since I was young. If I separated from him, he would probably just remain this way every day. I'm guessing that you won't want him this way either, right? When Little Roar heard her say this, he was elated. However, he still continued to act extremely pitifully. Forget it. The one who spoke was Shrine Maiden. Sima Yu smiled, actually, I feel like you should go outside for a look. You might see a different world. Go out? That's right. You've remained on the island all the while and don't know what the outside is like. You don't know what it's like to live outside either. If you go to many places, you might have a different worldview towards some things. Sima Yu said, in any case, doesn't your island master go out to play all the time? He can be your companion. Helmsman Tuo's expression darkened immediately. What was this brat saying? He was a very hard-working island master, all right? When did he run out to play every day? That was slander. Slander. However, leaving the island to play, that was a pretty good idea. Shrine Maiden and Helmsman Tua had known each other for a long time and she knew he was excited when she saw him this way. However, going out of the island to play? She had never ever thought about doing this before. Big sister Shrine, go ahead, go ahead. I'm telling you that the outside world is great. It has so many fun things to do and many delicious things to eat. Although those things aren't as yummy as Yu's cooking, but... Sima Yu couldn't bear Little Roar's clamor and covered his mouth with her hands. Little Shrine, since the Crimson Pearl convention is over, there's nothing to do on the island for now. Why don't we go out and play? Helmsman Tua urged as well. Alright then. How about we leave now? Helmsman Tua was as impulsive as ever. You're not going to bother with this matter anymore? This matter has always been her grudge with the Hao clan, why should we intervene? It will be fine as long as this brat doesn't split our island into two. Helmsman Tua said the first sentence for Shrine Maiden and the second one was a warning for Sima Yu. Sima Yu agreed with a laugh. It was fine as long as she didn't split the island into two. The authority that he had given her was pretty big, Helmsman Tua immediately pulled Shrine Maiden away and left behind the guards that she had brought with her, sending them back. When the guards sent her back, they said before leaving, Lady Yu, our master has said that if you end up in danger, you can contact us. After saying this, they left her with a way to contact them. Sima Yu watched as they departed, tossing the item in her hand into her spirit pagoda without looking at it again. The fact that Helmsman Tua was able to know about her situation meant that he should have sent men to tail her, right? Although it didn't interfere in the things she wanted to be watched by him all the time made her uncomfortable. However, she didn't have the ability to stop them from following her. When she turned around, suddenly, there was movement in the spirit pagoda. After obtaining news from Han Miao Shuang and the others, her expression turned into rage but was unable to do anything about it as she was still at the entrance of the inn where people were coming and going. She directly disappeared from where she was. White Tiger City dispelled the barrier once the Crimson Pearl convention was over, so everyone was able to enter and leave the city freely. They saw that the people who had come were Easternly and Easternly naturally noticed Han Miao Shuang Doingdi that, but she didn't say anything. You want to ask for help? Who did you want to kill? Sima Yu's voice came from midair and she immediately appeared in front of Han Miao Shuang and the others. How did you come here so quickly? Their people had been tailing her the whole way and had even sent word that she was in the city. How could she suddenly appear here? The both of them immediately thought of something. She had appeared soundlessly just now, proving that her spatial arts had already surpassed them both. Sima Yu looked at the both of them and sneered, you want to kill my seniors, could I afford to take my time? Otherwise, it'll be like you said, I'd only be able to see their dead bodies once I arrive. Humph, you can't change anything by coming anyway. Northern Du Hao didn't understand how powerful Sima Yu was, so to him, it was just a matter of being able to kill off another person since Sima Yu had come. However, Eastern Lily didn't feel the same way. Although she didn't know the in and outs of Sima Yu, she had a kind of strange fear towards her. Ever since she had entered till she emerged from the ancient mines, she didn't have the slightest injury. Although she had Xian Qiuhe's protection, if it were someone else instead, it might not have reached her level. Sima Yu felt the contempt they had towards her, but she was not enraged. You're right. If it were just me, I would really be unable to change anything. However, when did I say that I had come alone? Sima Yu smiled icily, I can't help but say this. You guys are just too bold. You dare to come and kill me with just the two of you. It's just the few of you, we have enough and more to spare. Is that so? Sima Yu gave a thought and Sima Lu Xian and the others appeared behind her. With a wave her hand, the elders from the White Egret clan emerged as well. No matter what you must do, the both of them must not be allowed to escape today. Without mentioning anything else, these two had returned kindness with revenge, insisting on killing them for no reason. Just based on this reason alone, she would not let them off. However, these two were geniuses from secret clans and had many life-preserving items. At that time, he was able to escape under the very eye of Supreme Fifth Spirit Senior, so she had no choice but to call out a few more people if she wanted to kill them right here. No matter what, not a single one of them could escape today. Eastern Lily and Northern Du Hao were shocked at first when they saw so many people appear. Then, they said lightly, we really underestimated you. However, it's wishful thinking if you want to kill us with just these few people. After saying this, he waved his hands and beside him appeared a group of people dressed in black. Undead. Su Xiao and the others had never seen undead outside before. Northern Du Hao broke into a cold smile, you guys can relax. Once you die, you will also become like that. How gross. Han Miao Shuang waved her hands with disgust, let's hurry up and deal with these undead. Sima Yu looked at Northern Du Hao. He actually had undead with him. Did that mean that the Northern Du clan was the real mastermind behind this? No matter what, her mind had changed. She couldn't kill Northern Du Hao for now. She might be able to get some information about him regarding the undead. Leave the undead to me. Kill the woman, leave the man. Sima Yu said. Although they were a little puzzled as to why she had changed her mind, everyone still obeyed her words. That was why nobody held back when they dealt with Eastern Lily and every blow was filled with killing intent. When they faced Northern Du Hao, they were a lot more gentle. At the very least, when they broke his 4 limbs, they did not attack his heart. As for Sima Yu, from the very first move she made, she controlled the dead aura on the undead's body. The undead who were about to put on a great display of strength had suddenly been controlled by her and stood there without moving. They didn't exactly stand there without moving, but they were remaining where they were as others killed them. Northern Du Hao was being pushed back and was currently wondering why his undead were not moving when he lifted his head to see that he seemed to have lost control over his undead. Sima Yu looked over and happened to see his eyes filled with disbelief. Northern Du Hao, could it be that you don't know? Using undead in my presence is like asking for death. Her smile was gentle, but Northern Du Hao's eyes grew large. That was because the ghost aura was pouring from her unadulteratedly, different from the average gloomy and cold aura from the ghost clan. Her ghost aura had a noble air to it, making them want to prostrate themselves in worship. It was no wonder those undead had been controlled by her. When death aura was compared to ghost aura, there was not even a need to compare. Without dead aura, they would naturally be unable to control the undead. If he had not looked down on Sima Yu and taken her just the slightest bit seriously, as long as he had investigated her a little, he would have known that she had the bloodline of the ghost clan. If that was so, would he have dared to reveal the undead in her presence? Dash. As he was distracted, Eastern Lily's arm had been impaled and she couldn't help but cry out. When Northern Du Hao saw this, how could he continue to think of these things? He was outnumbered today and could not zealously continue fighting. He wanted to tear open a void and escape, but he found out that the space had actually quietly been frozen. He subconsciously looked toward Sima Yu. She initially showed her powers in controlling space, and she was the only one who had this ability. However, before he was able to think of a countermeasure, Sima Yu did something that shocked him even more. Previous chapter. He only saw Sima Yu pushing her 2 hands apart as a bout of energy poured out from her palms. The people on site could tell that she was releasing her domain. A person who had not even reached Paragon rank was able to release a domain. Eastern Lily and Northern Du Hao's expressions became extremely complex when they saw her gaze. They were geniuses, but they were far more inferior as compared to her. The most important thing was that this kind of person was such an enemy who remained so low-key. If she were a friend, they would not have needed to fight her. If they knew that she had these kinds of cards, they would not have prepared to come and kill her. Really, when others had this kind of talent, they couldn't wait to let everyone know. Why did Sima Yu hide herself so deeply? As for the others there, although they knew she had a domain, this was the first time they had seen it and were all incredibly surprised. Sima Xiuqi sighed, her domain is bigger than ours, and more secure. Isn't that so? Huang Yingying said this, but the smile on her face deepened. Sima Luxian and Feng Zhixing exchanged glances, and their eyes were unresigned. They were actually inferior to one from the younger generation. This father and master of hers were a little lacking. It seemed like they had to work even harder from now on. As for Han Miaoshuang and the other two, they only zoned on. She really was too powerful. Sima Yu didn't think about what their reactions were as she released a part of her domain as she brought everyone inside together. Only then did she realize that everyone was stunned. She furrowed her eyebrows lightly as she said, "Grandfather, grandmother, this is not the time to zone out." After she spoke, everyone came back to their senses and continued to attack Eastern Li and Northern Duhao. Inside her domain, she suppressed the power of Eastern Li and Northern Duhao. Very quickly, Feng Zhixing pierced her through the heart. Until the very moment she died, Eastern Li never thought that she would lose her life here today. In the lost place, she lost her own life. Even as she fell, her eyes were still wide open. She really died unwillingly. Northern Duhao was also taken down very quickly. Of course, at this moment, he was breathing out a lot more than he was breathing in. Sima Yu tossed the remaining undead, Eastern Li's corpse and Northern Duhao into her spirit pagoda before keeping everyone else inside as well. Keep him alive. She instructed Little Spirit. At this moment, she hadn't the heart to deal with the undead. As long as they entered the spirit pagoda, he would not be able to die even if he begged for it. Sima Yu tidied up the scene before leaving this place. A short moment later, there were people who had rushed over after hearing the chaos. There was really the aura of a domain here just now. We just wonder which paragon expert was battling here. No matter how they tried to guess, they would never have thought that it would be Sima Yu. In order to prevent anything from happening, Sima Yu returned again after leaving. She secretly hid within the crowd. She noticed that their discussion seemed to be centered around the barrier that she made at the end but didn't know that it was her, so she finally relaxed. However, when they entered the city, she sadly realized that someone appeared to be trailing her directly. She just didn't know when the person started following her. If he had seen that scene earlier, then she was in trouble. However, she also refuted this guess. At that time, she had set up a domain 1 kilometer around where they were. If there was really someone inside, there was no way she wouldn't have known. Once she thought about that, she guessed that the person probably started following her from the time she started watching from the crowd. She entered the city and headed directly to the inn. When she reached her room, she called them all out. However, the few of them were not happy from their victorious battle. Instead, they all looked a little out of it. What's wrong? Sima Yu asked rather puzzledly. Why did these people become unhappy after coming out? Finally, it was Sima Luxian who spoke, that Northern Duhao is a stubborn one. There were so many of us who took turns to question him, but not a single one managed to find out information about the undead. You guys have tortured him already? Sima Yu asked. Yes, you said he just has to remain alive. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have done that. Sima Yu said, it's just that Northern Duhao's body has a bit of death aura as well, so he shouldn't be able to feel things like pain. Since he couldn't feel pain, then all those things were useless against him. I also tried using the method you mentioned about going into his sea of consciousness, but I found out that his had been sealed. The moment it's touched, his mind might shatter. Feng Zhixing was disappointed, feeling like he was useless. If one's mind shattered, he would be an idiot for the rest of his life, and there would be no way of ever knowing anything about the undead from his memories. That was because even he would never think of this ever again. It was no wonder they were all so listless. They couldn't force him nor could they forcefully read his memories. It seemed like Northern Duhao was a huge roadblock. After understanding this, she smiled, saying, you don't have to be anxious. When we entered the city, I sensed that I was being followed. So you're saying that the big fish has been hooked? Han Miaoshuang cried out excitedly. Sima Yu nodded, however, they can't be hooked so easily. But we can begin the next step of our plan. On the second day, Sima Yu and the others checked out. By the time the Mo clansmen checked out of their rooms, they realized that Sima Yu had actually received an invitation from the Black Tortoises Wu clan and had gone to be their guests. When Mo Shuiyang heard this piece of news, his eyebrows subconsciously furrowed as he muttered a sentence about how she had actually gone ahead and done it. It confused the people beside him. She had only gone to be their guest, she wasn't walking into a perilous situation. Why did young master sigh like that? However, Mo Shuiyang didn't explain anything. He just got his men to pay attention to the happenings of Black Tortoise City. Sima Yu and the others stood at the gates of the Wu clan. They looked at the majestic stone lion and suddenly felt as if there was something that was involuntarily beckoning out to her. The Wu clan. It actually gave her a weird sense of familiarity. She felt like it was a little strange. She had never encountered the Wu clan before, so why would it give her a sense of familiarity? Everyone, this way please. The one who came to pick them up was one of the main in-charges, and he welcomed them kindly. This was while everyone was zoning out in front of their gates, which was not really a polite thing to do. Our sincerest apologies, we have rarely seen these types of things and felt like those two stone lions were extremely unique, so we took a few more looks. Young Miss Yu, you're too kind. Please. Sima Xiuqi nodded as he took the lead to walk in. There was nobody who was familiar to her, and there was no familiar impression either. So why did this seem so familiar? When Sima Yu saw the Wu clan patriarch, she was momentarily stunned. He looked very familiar, with a resemblance to a certain someone. Patriarch Wu saw that she was staring at his face and he looked at her with a light smile. I was caught up in some issues earlier on and was unable to receive you, please do not take offense. It is us who are intruding. We heard of the great name of Patriarch Wu when we were on the island, and are finally able to meet you today. Sima Xiuqi casually said, please come inside. Patriarch Wu smiled widely and led them into the guest hall. I heard that you came in from outside. Since you are here, then please stay a while longer. Wouldn't this bother you too much? Sima Xiuqi said, the most important reason we came this time was to participate in the Crimson Pearl Convention. Now that the Crimson Pearl Convention is over, we will be leaving after a period of time. Don't you still have a bit of time? Just stay in our Wu clan for 2 days. You don't have anyone else you are familiar with, so why don't you stay here? Patriarch Wu said warmly. If so, then we will have to bother you. Sima Yu sat down obediently. She didn't listen to grandfather and Patriarch Wu's banter and, suddenly, had a premonition in her heart. The Wu clan, 2 these two surnames were not similar, and should have been extremely different from one another. However, she subconsciously thought of them. Wu Lingyu was a child that old Devil Mo had picked up. As to where he had come from, what he was really named, she had no idea. Old Man Devil said that he had once asked the 1 to 2-year-old Wu Lingyu what his name was, and he had once said Wu, so he had given him the name Wu Lingyu. At that time, he was so young. So which character, Wu, was he referring to? It was not her fault for thinking too much. The reality was, Patriarch Wu and Wu Lingyu looked rather similar. Also, the Wu clan gave her a very familiar feeling. She thought of it now. She knew why she felt that the stone lion was so familiar. She had once seen this kind of stone lion in Wu Lingyu's little realm. However, it was merely around the size of a fist. She had asked him before what that was, as it was unlike him. He had told her later on that this was something that was found inside his interspatial ring when he was young. No wonder. She didn't know whether or not the Wu clan had any relationship with Wu Lingyu. However, she had no plans to say anything. She would tell him later on. If he wanted to investigate, then he could do it himself. If he was not willing to, then she would just let this situation pass. Once she had thought this through, she didn't reveal anything. She thought about how her master and the others had come here before, and so she asked during the brief pause in the conversation between Sima Xiuqi and Patriarch Wu, Patriarch Wu, I heard that during the previous Crimson Pearl Convention, Su Jin and Go Lang once came to your residence. Patriarch Wu was stunned for a moment as he nodded and admitted, they did. At that time, it was also after the Crimson Pearl Convention. We invited them over as well. At that time, there were many who invited them, but they replied to us alone. However, they left that very day. Then when they were here, did they say anything? Sima Yu asked. Say anything? Patriarch Wu looked at Sima Yu a little puzzledly. They merely casually conversed with us when they came. We wanted to invite them to join us, but they were unwilling, so we didn't speak of it again. Then, they left. Then did they ask you anything or tell you where they were going? Sima Yu asked. Lady Sima seems to be very interested in them. Patriarch Wu said. Sima Yu smiled, saying, I won't hide it from you. Su Jin is my master and Go Lang is my teacher at the sect. After coming to the lost place, we lost contact with them. I have come here this time in order to find my master. Go Lang's your teacher? Patriarch Wu was rather surprised, but he looked like he understood. It was no wonder they would treat the sick at the same time. It turns out that they were related. These 3 are my seniors. They are also very worried about master, so they have come here as well. If Patriarch Wu knows anything, please let us know. Sima Yu said earnestly. If they said anything, it was probably to ask us a few questions. Patriarch Wu recalled what happened back then. Our ancestor once possessed a divine devil physique, so they asked us how the ancestor managed to resolve the issue with that physique. Sima Yu and Jiang Junxian exchanged glances. Back then, they had initially gone to try and find a solution for Sima Yu's physique, saying that there were answers here. She didn't expect that they would come here for answers. They didn't say anything, so Patriarch Wu continued, we really did have an ancestor with this physique. However, it was something from a few tens of thousands of years ago. How could we possibly know how we resolved it? So we could only apologize. Then did your ancestor die as a result of his physique? Sima Lu Xian asked. No, he used some unknown method to resolve the issue with that physique. However, he entered the devil clan. Patriarch Wu said. Sima Yu's heart skipped a beat. A few tens of thousands of years ago. The divine devil physique. Mo clan, the Wu clan's ancestor couldn't have been Mo Sha, right? If it really was, then Mo Sha and Wu Lingyu were. Patriarch Wu, on that day, did master say where they were headed to next? Han Miao Shuang's words interrupted her train of thought. When they heard that we had no solution, they were very disappointed. Then, we asked them what their plans were and they said that they didn't know either. They really didn't know who would know how to solve this issue. Since that was the case, there was no use for them to stay here and they planned to leave. That's why, if you didn't tell me that they were missing, would have just assumed that they just left. Sima Yu knew that he was speaking the truth. Su Jin and the others were really not here. From what Helmsman Tuo said last time, they were undoubtedly in the Hao clan. They knew this, so they were not too disappointed. As such, they accepted the warm welcome of the Wu clan and this served as a good excuse for them to come into Black Tortoise City. For the next few days, they stayed in the Wu clan and answered a few of the questions that the Wu clan's doctors and alchemists had. They passed the days in a rather leisurely manner. Very quickly, rumors began to spread outside that the first-ranked doctor had entered the Wu clan and had become their guest, which was why she had gone in for so many days without coming out. They were enjoying their harmonious relationship here, while a few people on the other side were upset. They had received their invitation, but had actually gone to their arch-rivals, the Wu clan. Patriarch Hao's expression was extremely dark. Patriarch, Sima Yu's medical skills are indeed excellent, especially her abilities in acupuncture. If she could pass that skill on to our Hao clan, our medicinal skills would advance by leaps and bounds. Someone said. That's right. I initially heard her use some acupuncture methods, but I never saw it with my own eyes. This time, I've been enlightened. Someone else said, there were a few of the sick people inside that I had arranged, and I am extremely well versed in their condition. It was just a few days, but they had almost recovered back to full health. Patriarch, should we return to our old methods? The old method was naturally referring to the backhanded way they were going to do things. Actually, there were many outsiders who had disappeared recently. It had already started attracting attention, and there was someone investigating this. Based on reasoning, at this critical moment, the Hao clan should be operating low-key, but Sima Yu's acupuncture methods were too tempting and they had no way of resisting this temptation. After hesitating again and again, the Hao clan still decided to do it. As for Sima Yu, she found out about their idea and plan at the same time. As such, on the morning of the second day, Sima Yu took her people and said their farewells before finding a remote place to keep them into her spirit pagoda. Then, she nonchalantly strolled the streets. She entered a herbal shop and began to find the medicinal ingredients she needed. Dear guest, do you need any help? What herbs are you looking for? The shopkeeper came forward and his attitude was warm and earnest. There's nothing I particularly want to buy. I merely want to see whether or not you have any special herbs here. Sima Yu said lightly. The shopkeeper could tell that she was an outsider at a glance, so he said with a smile, Customer, you must be referring to the herbs that are only available on our island, right? That's right. Sima Yu nodded, if possible, the more ancient the better. Those herbs that are only available on our island are naturally more precious and are only available on the second level. The shopkeeper said warmly. Sima Yu glanced at those herbs and saw that they were very ordinary. After looking around, nothing piqued her interest. Since the precious ones are on the second level, let's head to the second level for a look. Customer, please come with me. The shopkeeper led her to the second level and led her to the area where herbs exclusive to the island were placed. He said, Customer, this is the place. Sima Yu looked at them, and the herbs were really better than the ones downstairs. Is this a silver water plant? She picked up a stalk of it and inspected it. Indeed, it is a 100-year-old silver water plant. The shopkeeper replied. Is a 100-year-old herb considered rather rare? Sima Yu asked with curiosity. This silver water plant is a herb that is commonly found on the island. Because its uses are versatile, many use it. Because it is the most needed, most of them are dug up the moment it is useful. To find one of this age is considered rather rare. The shopkeeper explained. I see. Sima Yu placed the silver water plant down after understanding and came to another herb in a box. Whenever she saw a type of herb, she would ask questions about it. The shopkeeper would answer her questions patiently, especially those that she was most interested in. Help me to wrap up all of those I selected before. Sima Yu said. All right. As the shopkeeper kept those herbs away, he seemed to have thought of something as he turned around and said to Sima Yu, Customer, a type of herb just arrived today and has not yet been displayed. It's rather rare, would you like to take a look? A rare herb? Then please show it to me. Sima Yu replied. The shopkeeper went downstairs and came back up in less than 2 minutes. In his hands was a box. Sima Yu saw that the box was exquisite and on it were complicated designs. There were many herbs that were placed inside the jade box. There were many of these types of boxes in the house. Sima Yu was really interested in this. What herb is inside here? She asked curiously. Customer, you will know once you open it. The shopkeeper placed it in her hands. Sima Yu did not doubt him and directly opened the box. However, before she managed to see what herb was inside, a white smoke emerged. She suddenly felt as if she smelled something fragrant and, before she could react, she collapsed on the table. Seeing that she had fainted, the door to a room on the second level was opened. The two people who walked out of there looked like guards. Is it done? A guard asked. The shopkeeper immediately kept away his warm expression from before and nodded towards the two of them. The two guards came beside Sima Yu and one of them picked her up under her arms and entered the earlier room. They soundlessly disappeared from the second level. When Sima Yu woke up, she had a headache and her body still felt weak. She wanted to stretch forth a hand and rub her temples, but found that she could not. However, she felt pretty good and she even smiled lightly. Humph, stupid woman. You always cause yourself to end up in this state. Apart from allowing yourself to get hurt, is there no other way? Mi-er's voice carried over and then a smaller version of herself appeared beside the bed. Sima Yu ignored the criticism in his words and said, this was the most straightforward way. Humph. Go ahead then. Mi-er said unhappily, which type of pill? The orangey red one. Sima Yu said. Mi-er took out an orange-red pill and stuffed it in her mouth. Very quickly, she felt herself gaining control of her body. Her body started to cure itself of poison and she sat up from the bed, examining the room. The room was not big, and was set up very simply. However, the things were all of high quality. Perhaps it was because she had been poisoned and lost control of her body, but there was not a single guard at her door. The Hao clan really knows how to enjoy life. Sima Yu expressed. Humph. Mi replied to her accommodatingly. I wonder where Master and the others are. Were they locked up in the same place as her? Stop thinking. I already examined everything since the moment we came in. This is just a small courtyard and you are alone here. Mi said. Sima Yu was shocked when she heard it. They locked her up alone? Then it seemed like her luck wasn't bad. They locked her up immediately. It was true when she thought about it. She had never seen any of the Hao clansmen. If she was willing to join them, they naturally would not need to bring her to their secret place to lock her away. Once they met later and they confirmed that she definitely wouldn't join them, it wouldn't be too late to send her there. As such, she calmed down and waited for the Hao clansmen to appear. Without disappointing her, the Hao clansmen appeared on the morning of the second day. When they saw Sima Yu had already woken up, they weren't surprised. Who are you? Sima Yu lay on the bed and appeared weak and helpless. I am the Hao clan's patriarch, Patriarch Hao. Hao clan. Sima Yu frowned, I wonder why you have taken me here. Hao Ji didn't reply to her question, but walked over to her bedside and lowered his head to look at her. He laughed, Lady Yu, you obtained first place at the Crimson Pearl Convention. I haven't had the chance to congratulate you. Sima Yu's expression was icy as she sneered, to poison someone and make them fall unconscious, could this be the way the Hao clan congratulates someone? If that's the case, I can't bear your congratulations. Previous chapter.